Imagine this, my friend. In this world, a weapon is not just a piece of steel. It is the very soul of its owner. The stronger your soul is, the stronger your power becomes. The magic knights are divided into 3 ranks. The first is rank S, warriors capable of destroying an entire building with a single strike. Then comes rank A, the elite among princes and princesses. Finally, there is rank F, the rank of our friend Iki, the boy whom the entire academy considers a complete disgrace. He has spent 10 years at the academy, yet he still cannot properly manifest his soul weapon. During all those years, the only word he has ever heard is failure. But what no one knows is that this so-called failure possesses a hidden power that has yet to awaken, a power that will completely change his life. So what is that power? Without further delay, let's begin the story. The story begins with Iki watching the news, which announces that the second princess of the Stella Empire has returned to Japan. The princess earned the highest score in the classification exam, and her magic power appears to be truly overwhelming. That is not all. She has also enrolled in Tokyo's Night Academy. Only the absolute elite with extraordinary abilities are accepted into this academy. Iki quietly thinks to himself that this world only recognizes strength. Anyone without power can never defeat someone who possesses it. He then answers his own question, realizing that it was foolish in the first place because the answer is obvious. During that moment, he remembers the words of a man from his childhood, who once told him that although his power was weak, it would continue growing over time, and that he should never give up on it no matter what happened. After that, Iki summons his magic sword and continues his training while wondering when the day will finally come for him to become a true magic knight. It has always been his greatest dream, but he knows the path ahead will never be easy. Elsewhere, the headmaster of the Night Academy proudly explains that her academy is one of the strongest in Japan. Many legendary knights graduated from it, and its name alone is enough to strike fear into others. She also points out that the academy's students have won every championship over the past few years. However, she is not saying this to just anyone. She is speaking directly to Iki, and it seems the boy has caused quite a serious problem. He accidentally offended the princess, so the headmaster immediately begins scolding him, while Iki quickly apologizes. The princess tells him that she is willing to forgive him, but only under one condition. He must challenge her to the ancient knight duel. For anyone unfamiliar with it, this duel is extremely dangerous, and the loser could end up with a broken body, unable to walk afterward. Iki stares at her in disbelief and asks if she has gone crazy. Does he have to die just to earn her forgiveness? The princess immediately loses her temper, while the headmaster excuses herself and leaves the room. At that very moment, the princess releases her fire magic power, causing the academy's alarm system to ring throughout the entire campus. It looks like she is about to finish him off. Fortunately, Iki narrowly avoids the attack and apologizes once again. Just then, the headmaster returns with an unexpected announcement. Starting today, the two of them will become roommates. Iki is completely shocked and says it makes no sense. She is rank A while he is rank F. Students are supposed to share rooms with others from the same rank. The headmaster replies that he should learn something from her. It would be ridiculous for the weakest student in the academy to waste the opportunity to stay with someone as talented as the princess. Meanwhile, the princess is equally stunned after learning that she has to share her room with the academy's weakest student. She looks at him and says that if he wants to live with her, he must follow 3 rules. First, he must never look at her. Second, he must never get close to her. Third, he must make sure she never even notices his existence. Iki lets out a tired sigh and sarcastically says that dying would be easier than living under those conditions. She coldly replies that these are her rules. If he dislikes them, he can sleep outside the room. She does not care. If he still cannot accept them, he is free to leave because she has no interest in speaking with a failure like him. The two immediately begin arguing until the headmaster steps in to stop them. She suggests holding a mock knight duel. The winner will have the right to decide every rule inside the room and will also have complete freedom regarding anything related to it. Iki accepts without hesitation. The princess laughs at him and reminds him that he is only rank F. How could he possibly imagine defeating her? Iki calmly agrees to the headmaster's proposal before asking if she is afraid. She confidently replies that she could never fear someone like him and invites him to begin the duel. However, she adds one more condition. The loser must become the winner's servant for life. It seems the days ahead will not be easy for Icky. At first, he refuses this condition, but after she continues pressuring him, he eventually agrees, and the two decide to find out who will become whose servant. The headmaster then announces that the duel will begin in 1 hour at Training Area 4. Icky realizes this day is only becoming more difficult. During that time, the princess remembers her childhood, when she told her mother that her dream was to become a knight someday. Shortly afterward, news of the duel spreads throughout the entire academy. The strongest student in the academy is about to face the weakest student, the boy ranked F. Almost every student believes Icky is about to be completely crushed, but those are only assumptions. After that, Icky tells the headmaster that he wants to win this year's 7-star festival. However, he knows his real first step is defeating the princess because she will certainly compete in the festival as well. That is why he has to defeat her today. Princess Stella steps into the arena while everyone looks at Icky with envy. Believing he is about to be defeated by her, she tells him to surrender now and become her servant instead of letting her break his bones before making him her servant anyway. Icky simply smiles with confidence and tells her that she is the one dreaming. The headmaster then officially declares the beginning of the mock duel. She explains that this type of duel causes no physical injuries. It only drains a knight's magic power. The battle begins. Icky summons his sword and invites her to attack first. Stella releases her tremendous magic power, forming a blazing sword in her hands before charging straight toward him. However, Icky dodges at the last possible moment. A direct hit would have defeated him instantly. The princess continues launching one attack after another, while Icky does nothing but defend, block, and wait for an opening. The students watching begin mocking him, saying this is exactly what they expected from someone ranked F. But the truth is completely different. Icky possesses an incredible defensive technique. A moment later, he tells Stella that he has completely understood her fighting style. Then he rushes toward her while using that exact same style. She is left speechless, wondering how such a thing is even possible. Icky simply asks her to wait and see. She points out that they have only been fighting for 2 minutes. How could he possibly copy her entire fighting style so quickly? He attacks once again, and suddenly her own techniques are turned against her. Instead of attacking, Stella is now forced to stay on the defensive. It seems the impossible is about to happen. Moments later, Icky shatters the arena floor beneath her feet, making her even more nervous. He calmly explains that this is his own combat style. He copies his opponent's fighting techniques. The princess launches another attack powerful enough to cut off his head, but Icky easily avoids it before telling her that she is far too slow. Taking advantage of the opening, he lands a clean strike on her shoulder. Stella becomes furious, forcing Icky to immediately retreat. She then releases all of her magic power and challenges him to face her with everything he has. She admits that his strength surprised her, but she insists he can never defeat her as long as she possesses this overwhelming magic power. She prepares her ultimate attack, creating a massive fire dragon that destroys the roof of the arena before launching it directly at Icky. The fiery dragon completely swallows him. Then, without warning, Icky disappears. An instant later, he appears right behind her and quietly tells her that he is standing at her back. His speed has increased dramatically. Stella can no longer hit him, while Icky effortlessly avoids every attack as if he were merely playing with her. He then leaps high into the air and comes crashing down with his sword, ending the duel with a single decisive strike. However, his own magic power is completely exhausted, causing him to collapse unconscious. The headmaster immediately declares Icky the winner. Every student is left in absolute shock. No one can believe what they have just witnessed, but the truth is undeniable. Icky has won. Even so, no one actually suffered any physical injuries during the duel because this type of battle only drains magic power. After the battle ends, Stella is taken to the hospital after completely exhausting her magic power. The headmaster tells her that Icky also used up all of his magic power, but he is recovering safely. Still, Stella cannot accept her defeat. She wonders how someone ranked F managed to defeat her. The headmaster explains that rank only measures the amount of magic power someone possesses. Physical ability and combat skill have nothing to do with the ranking. That is why Icky defeated her fairly. She also explains that one day his magic power will continue growing, and when that happens, he will be able to rise to a higher rank. Finally, she advises Stella to use this defeat as motivation to become stronger so she can defeat him next time. Later, Stella returns to their room and finds Icky asleep. As soon as he wakes up, he notices the injury on her head, quickly brings a bandage, and carefully treats her wound. It seems the atmosphere between them has finally become much warmer. After that, Stella opens her heart to him and explains the real reason she returned to Japan. She also apologizes for underestimating him and honestly admits that he defeated her fair and square. However, Icky smiles mischievously and reminds her that, according to the condition she proposed herself, she has now become his servant. Stella freezes in shock. He reminds her of everything she said before the duel, making her regret the day she suggested that condition. He then tells her that, starting today, she works for him. However, instead of continuing to tease her, he simply smiles and tells her that he is happy they are roommates. Stella blushes in embarrassment while quietly feeling relieved that, after everything that happened, Icky did not throw her out of the room. Right after that, Icky and Stella begin training together and go out for a long run. While they are running, Stella tells him that she is exhausted and asks if they can stop. However, Icky says that this is nowhere near enough. He runs 20 kilometers every single day, and they still have a long way to go. Since she lost to him, she has no choice but to follow his orders. He then explains that her powerful magic power makes up for her lack of physical strength. As for him, he does not possess overwhelming magic power, so he relies entirely on his physical abilities and combat skills. Stella complains that he is taking it way too seriously, saying he looks like he is about to cry from all the passion. After that, Icky hands her a bottle of water. She drinks it before asking why he seems so happy, since it was only one duel. Icky tells her that the reason is completely different. Today, his little sister is joining the academy. Right afterward, Icky and Stella head to their classroom. Their teacher introduces herself by saying, "Welcome to the academy. My name is Oriki, and I'll be your new teacher." She happily announces that there will be no classes today. She then explains that the headmaster has decided to make this year's opening ceremony completely different from previous years. In the past, the academy's elite students were chosen based only on their strength. Starting this year, however, every student will participate in battles against one another. In the end, only the last 6 students remaining will become the academy's elite. She also announces that the battles will begin next week, and it seems everyone is about to face some fierce competition. Stella asks how many matches each student will fight and how many participants there will be. The teacher explains that every student will fight 10 matches, meaning each student will have one duel every 3 days. As for the participants, almost every student in the academy will be competing. She adds that anyone who does not wish to participate is free to withdraw, but she hopes no one will do so because the matches will be fair for everyone. While she is speaking, blood suddenly starts pouring from her nose, making it look as though she has died. Icky simply says that it has nothing to do with him. Afterward, they take her to the hospital, where it turns out that the teacher already suffers from a medical condition, and this happens to her every single day. Icky asks why she even came to the academy today. She replies that it is her very first day there, so of course she could not stay home. Later, Icky and Stella leave the hospital together. As they walk, Stella asks him what his previous year at the academy was like. Suddenly, a girl runs toward Icky and excitedly says that she has finally found him. It seems Icky has suddenly become the academy's newest center of attention. Icky asks who she is and what she wants. She introduces herself as Kagami, a student from the same class. She explains that she watched his duel against Stella and was amazed by the way he defeated her because his strength was far beyond what she had expected. Meanwhile, Stella stands beside him without saying a word, clearly wanting the conversation to end as quickly as possible. Kagami tells Icky that she interviews powerful students like him and publishes those interviews, then asks if she can interview him as well. At that very moment, almost the entire academy is watching them. Stella quietly walks away, before coldly telling Icky to let Kagami interview him instead. It seems she has become jealous. Meanwhile, Kagami even comes up with a title for the interview: The Knight Icky Who Defeated Princess Stella in Seconds. Icky immediately gets annoyed and tells her to leave him alone because he has no interest in interviews or flashy headlines. He then leaves her behind and runs after Stella. However, another girl suddenly appears in front of him. Ever since defeating Stella, Icky has become famous throughout the academy because of that victory. The girl tells him that it has been a long time since they last met and asks how he has been. It quickly becomes clear that Icky already knows her. Her name is Shizuku, and she is an extremely powerful knight. Stella asks Iki what is going on, but he tells her that he has no idea. Stella finally loses her patience, grabs Shizuku, throws her aside, and demands to know what is happening and why he never seems to notice these situations. Iki insists that he has done absolutely nothing. Shizuku quickly returns and asks Stella why she has been staying with Iki all this time. Stella honestly explains that she lost their duel, and according to the agreement, the loser had to become the winner's servant. Everyone is completely shocked by her answer, and the news spreads throughout the academy almost instantly. Shizuku immediately loses her temper. She summons her soul weapon and declares that she will defeat Stella so she will no longer have to serve Iki. Stella also summons her own weapon, and it becomes obvious that neither of them is thinking calmly anymore. The two girls charge straight at each other and their battle begins destroying parts of the academy. Right after that, the headmaster punishes both of them. She reminds them that using their weapons outside designated battle areas is strictly forbidden. She then orders them to clean up every bit of the damage they caused. As punishment, they must clean the area for an entire week. Once they finally finish cleaning, they leave together. Meanwhile, Iki is busy training when Stella walks over to him. He asks why she is standing there. She tells him that she has just finished cleaning the academy before handing him a bottle of water. Then she asks about the rumors she heard over the past few years, saying that people claimed he was so weak that he could not even properly use his magic power. Iki immediately chokes on the water in surprise. After calming down, he tells her everything. Then he suddenly asks her one question. Does she know the legendary samurai Ryoma? Stella replies that of course she does. He is the hero who led Japan during the Great War. Iki then reveals that Ryoma is actually his great-great-grandfather. He quietly says that his greatest dream is to become someone just like him someday. After that, Iki remembers what happened when he was a child. One day, during a terrible snowstorm, he wandered outside and became completely lost. That was when he met the samurai, his ancestor. The samurai told him that one day he would become strong, but he must never lose hope because strength does not appear all at once. It is earned through constant training and hard work. From that day on, Iki decided that he would become just like his ancestor and one day amaze everyone with the strength he would achieve. It is then revealed that Iki belongs to a powerful and prestigious family. However, none of them care about him because they consider him weak. Even the academy itself did not want to accept him at first. In the end, he relied on his family's influence and entered the academy through connections. It seems connections exist even in the world of anime. Stella smiles after hearing his story and encourages him not to give up because one day he will become just like his ancestor. Later that night, Iki and Stella return to their room. As soon as they arrive, Iki reminds her that she is still his servant and asks her to prepare dinner. Without arguing, Stella heads off to make the meal. The following day, Iki and Stella continue training together, exchanging countless strikes with their soul weapons. After a while, Stella says they have trained enough, but Iki reminds her that today is her first official tournament match. She reveals that her opponent is a third-year student named Mamatani. Iki warns her that his unusual shield-type soul weapon is extremely powerful and tells her not to underestimate him. Stella confidently declares that she will defeat him anyway, while Iki insists that knowing the opponent is the key to victory. After returning to the academy, Iki and Stella run into Shizuku and her friend Nagi. As expected, Stella and Shizuku immediately start provoking each other. When Nagi teases Shizuku, she almost attacks him before Iki stops her and reminds her that using a soul weapon in public could get her arrested. The four then head to a shopping mall. Shizuku keeps teasing Stella about still being Iki's servant, making Stella visibly jealous. During lunch, Iki wipes food from Shizuku's face, prompting Stella to smear whipped cream across his face in retaliation. Iki simply teases her even more. At that moment, an armed gang storms the mall. While Iki and Nagi are in the restroom, the criminals burst in and open fire, only to discover that both boys have vanished. Using Nagi's shadow gates, they secretly reach the surveillance room, where they find the security guards tied up. The headmaster contacts them and confirms that the gang specializes in hostage situations, officially authorizing the students to use their soul weapons. Meanwhile, Stella and Shizuku are among the hostages. After a criminal attacks a woman and her child, Stella saves the child with her magic power and easily blocks the gang's bullets. Their leader, Bishu, tricks Stella into lowering her guard and defeats her with a single attack before humiliating her in front of everyone. Watching from afar, Iki can barely restrain himself, but Nagi stops him with Shadow Bind until the perfect moment arrives. Shizuku suddenly protects all the hostages with a massive water barrier. As the gang opens fire, Nagi releases Iki. Iki drops into the battlefield, dodges every bullet, instantly copies the gang's fighting styles, and cuts off Bishu's arm with a single slash. When Bishu tries to escape, Nagi traps him with Shadow Bind, while Stella and Shizuku defeat the remaining criminals. Although Iki collapses from the side effects of his copy skill, the battle is not over. Another criminal takes a hostage, but mysterious bullet-like attacks suddenly kill both her and Bishu. A young man appears, Kirihara. From Iki's expression alone, it is obvious that the two cannot stand each other. The following day, Stella faces Momotani, the heavily armored knight known as the Heavy Tank. Almost everyone expects her to lose because Iki, a rank F knight, defeated her before. Ignoring the crowd, Stella gathers all of her magic power and warns Momotani that one mistake will end the fight instantly. Before the match even begins, Momotani collapses from fear, losing without throwing a single attack. At that time, Iki keeps thinking about Kirihara's power and how he wiped out the entire gang using that strange bullet-like energy. Stella walks over to him, so he asks how she managed to win her match before it had even begun. She calmly replies that fear is capable of doing far more than that. Afterward, Iki watches recordings of Kirihara's matches and tries to analyze his fighting style. However, Kirihara attacks without ever revealing himself, making his ability truly terrifying. Iki tells Stella not to worry, because if she ever faces Kirihara in the tournament, he will not be able to do much against her. Her large-scale fire attacks would destroy the entire arena and force him out of hiding. Stella then asks what he would do if Kirihara became his opponent. Iki honestly admits that he does not know. Even so, he tells her not to worry because he will definitely find a way to win. Later, Iki heads outside for more training and goes for a run. During his training, he runs into Nagi, and the two sit down to talk for a while. Nagi asks whether it is true that Kirihara almost killed him the previous year. Iki confirms that it is true and explains that Kirihara wanted to force him into a duel. When Iki refused, Kirihara summoned his soul weapon and nearly killed him. Nagi advises him to stay alert because there is a very good chance that Kirihara will become his opponent in the tournament. However, Iki replies that he actually hopes that happens because he wants to settle everything that happened between them in the past. Meanwhile, Stella arrives and tells him that they are going to watch the next match, asking him to come along. Iki tells her that he has to head to the waiting room instead because it is almost time for his own match. He walks over to an automated terminal which tells him that if he is not afraid of risking his life or dying inside the arena, then he should press the button to accept the match. Without the slightest hesitation, Iki presses the accept button. He quietly tells himself that he must win this tournament no matter what happens. Just then, a girl suddenly appears and tells him that every match in previous years had been nothing more than a mock battle. This year is completely different because everyone will be fighting seriously. Even so, he accepted the match without showing any hesitation. Iki tells her that he has trained for a very long time and worked hard to become stronger for this exact moment. That is why, no matter what happens, he will never withdraw from the tournament, even if it costs him his life. Just then, the headmaster arrives, grabs the girl, and takes her away while telling her to go finish the task she was assigned. Elsewhere, Iki enters the waiting room and patiently waits for his match, which will begin in 30 minutes. He thinks about his very first official battle and about his dream of becoming a knight just like his ancestor. Suddenly, the announcer calls his name and tells him to enter the arena. For a brief moment, Iki feels an unusual sense of nervousness. He stands still for a few seconds before calming himself down and reminding himself that he has to finish this. He then walks directly into the arena. The moment he steps inside, he discovers that his opponent is the one everyone fears the most, Kirihara. Kirihara smirks and says that he thought Iki would run away. Iki calmly replies that he did not come here to withdraw. He came to settle their unfinished business once and for all. The match begins, and both of them summon their soul weapons. Kirihara immediately uses his magic power to create an entire forest inside the arena before disappearing among the trees. Countless attacks suddenly fly toward Iki from every direction, but he successfully blocks every single one. Kirihara briefly reveals himself before firing that same mysterious bullet-like energy. Iki manages to block the attack before charging toward him, showing that he is actually capable of keeping up with his speed. Kirihara disappears once again and mockingly tells Iki to show him what he can do. He then calmly announces that he will target Iki's right leg. The very next second, an arrow pierces Iki's leg, making him cry out in pain. A second arrow immediately strikes his left arm. Kirihara asks if he wants to give up now. Iki cannot do anything to fight back. back, another attack strikes his other arm, knocking him to the ground. Kirihara continues tearing Ikki's body apart with arrows as if he is simply playing with him. At that moment, Stella and the rest of the students arrive to watch the match. Stella anxiously asks what is happening to Ikki. Nagi explains that Ikki cannot do anything because he must actually see his opponent in order to copy their fighting style. Without seeing Kirihara, the outcome of the match is practically decided. Meanwhile, inside the arena, Kirihara continues shooting Ikki from every direction. The students all declare that Ikki has absolutely no chance of defeating him. As he lies there, Ikki hears their voices echoing inside his head. Failure. Weak. You are a disgrace. Kirihara then lands what appears to be the finishing blow, piercing Ikki through the back until the attack bursts out through his chest. Ikki collapses onto the ground. Everyone laughs at him. However, Stella angrily shouts for him to get back up and reminds him that he has to win. To everyone's shock, Ikki slowly stands back up as though nothing had happened. He even punches himself to force himself completely awake. Then he releases all of his power. Kirihara fires another arrow. This time, Ikki catches it with his bare hand without suffering any injury. He calmly tells Kirihara that he can finally see both his power and his aura. From now on, hiding will no longer work. Kirihara launches countless attacks in panic, but Ikki blocks every single one. Kirihara can only stare in disbelief, wondering how Ikki managed to see him. Ikki unleashes his full strength while Kirihara completely loses his composure and continues attacking without stopping. But none of what happened earlier matters anymore. The real battle begins now. Ikki destroys every incoming attack. Then he calmly tells Kirihara that the game is over. He declares that he will defeat Kirihara's strongest technique with his own ultimate technique. Ikki charges straight toward him. Suddenly, the tables turn, and Kirihara can do nothing except run away. He desperately fires arrows in every direction while retreating. However, Ikki leaps high into the air and brings his sword crashing down, splitting the entire attack in half. He continues descending toward Kirihara as if he is about to finish everything with a single strike. Ikki's sword crashes into the arena, completely destroying the battlefield. At the very last second, he deliberately avoids striking Kirihara directly, even though that attack would have split him in half. Kirihara loses consciousness from pure shock. As a result, Ikki is declared the overwhelming winner. Right after that, Ayase asks Ikki to meet her on the rooftop of a building. Ikki goes to meet her, and she asks him a question. What would you do if you had to face an opponent you already knew you couldn't defeat? Ikki calmly replies that he would still try. Even if he lost, it would not matter, because giving up without trying would be far worse. Ayase tells him that she feels the same way. She is willing to do anything to win, even if it costs her own life. Without warning, she suddenly summons her sword, cuts the nearby cables, and throws herself off the rooftop. Ikki is completely shocked. He shouts her name, releases all of his power, and jumps off the building after her at full speed. He manages to catch her in midair before the two of them crash through the windows of a nearby building. Thanks to Ikki, Ayase survives at the very last second. After regaining consciousness, Ikki immediately asks why she did something like that. However, Ayase finally reveals the truth. She tells him that the technique he used to save her can only be activated once per day. Their match will begin in only 10 hours, meaning he will no longer be able to use that technique during their duel. Ikki is stunned. She had planned everything from the very beginning. He asks if winning really means that much to her and tells her that, at the very least, she should win honorably. Ayase coldly replies that honor means nothing to her. She wants victory at any cost, even if she has to die for it. After saying those words, she walks away. Meanwhile, Ikki loses consciousness after exhausting so much magic power while saving her. When he finally opens his eyes, he finds himself lying in a hospital bed with all of his friends gathered around him. For a moment, he believes the match is already over. However, he quickly realizes that there is still time before it begins. Just then, the headmaster enters the room. She tells him she is glad he has regained consciousness before asking him to come with her. She takes him to her office and asks whether he was responsible for destroying the building. She wants to know exactly what happened. Ikki replies that he cannot reveal the truth. However, he is willing to accept whatever punishment she decides to give him. He then asks her to tell him everything she knows about Ayase. The headmaster begins explaining her past. She reveals that Ayase once fought against Kurashiki, the same young man who appeared at the restaurant and smashed a juice bottle over Iki's head. That duel was fought with everything on the line. The winner would claim all of the loser's land and property. Ayase lost the battle, forcing her family to hand everything over to Kurashiki. Ever since that day, Ayase's father, the samurai Kaito, has remained unconscious for the past 5 years. Elsewhere, Ayase sits beside her father's hospital bed, remembering every word he told her when she was a little girl. He always told her that when she grew up, she should restore the family's honor and become stronger than everyone else. Ayase is overwhelmed with guilt. She believes she lost everything. Not only did her family lose all of its property, but its honor disappeared as well. She tells herself that if she can reach the finals of the 7-Star Festival, she will challenge Kurashiki and take back everything he stole from her. This is her final chance. Suddenly, her father regains consciousness and apologizes to her. It turns out that none of it was actually her fault. Her father was the one who fought that duel. The battle had originally been a competition between the two schools. Ayase tells him not to worry because she will recover everything that was lost. After hearing the whole story, Iki finally understands why Ayase is so desperate to reach the finals by any means necessary. He finds himself facing a difficult decision. Should he defeat her, or should he let her achieve her dream? Stella asks him what he plans to do. Iki answers without hesitation. He will fight with everything he has. If Ayase is going to win, then she must win honorably, not because her opponent chose to lose. Soon, the time for the match arrives, and the arena is packed with cheering spectators. Iki enters the battlefield to the crowd's applause. From the opposite side, the third-year knight Ayase steps into the arena. Iki summons his soul weapon. Ayase summons hers as well. Iki prepares to attack, but he is suddenly struck by a violent invisible slash that nearly tears his body apart. He quickly retreats while everyone watches in confusion, unable to understand the mysterious skill she is using. Every time Ayase swings her sword, new wounds suddenly appear on Iki's body. Unable to endure the attacks, he collapses to the ground immediately after the second strike. Ayase attacks once more. This time, Iki successfully blocks her attack. The two exchange several blows before creating some distance between each other. Both of them prepare their strongest techniques. It is finally revealed that Ayase's skill allows her to unleash invisible attacks that strike the opponent the moment she moves. It is an incredibly terrifying ability. She charges at Iki once again. This time, however, he manages to avoid the invisible attack. It seems he has finally learned to see it, but Ayase immediately follows with another lightning-fast slash that cuts deeply across his arm, covering it in blood. It looks as though Iki may actually lose to the girl he personally trained. Ayase continues attacking while Iki focuses entirely on defense. She then unleashes an attack resembling a raging tornado. This time, Iki blocks it with ease. It seems he has finally regained his rhythm. During the battle, Iki remembers the conversation he had with his teacher before the match. He warned her that Ayase might break the rules during the duel and asked her to pretend not to notice. The teacher replied that if that happened, Iki would lose while Ayase would win. However, Iki told her that he did not care. He only wanted Ayase to become the person she used to be. Back on the battlefield, Iki carefully observes Ayase. He realizes that she is nervous and no longer fighting the way he taught her. Instead, she has begun attacking recklessly. Her only goal now is victory. Iki concludes that darkness has completely taken over her heart. If she continues fighting like this, she will never be able to unleash her true strength. Instead, her reckless attacks will quickly drain all of her magic power. Iki asks her to show him her real strength. Ayase only screams at him to stay quiet. Iki tells her to return to the person she once was, because every technique he knows came from her father's swordsmanship. He begs her not to let her family's name fall into disgrace. However, Ayase replies that even if she returned to her old self, nothing would change. The only thing that matters to her now is winning. At that moment, Iki decides to end the battle. He charges straight toward her. Ayase unleashes her invisible attack once again, but now Iki can clearly see it and completely avoids it. She tells him that the real battle has not even begun yet. Then she drives her sword into the center of the arena, completely destroying the floor beneath them. A huge cloud of dust fills the battlefield. Suddenly, Iki bursts out from the smoke. The two of them launch the exact same attack at the exact same moment. However, Ayase collapses unconscious as Iki's finishing blow decides the match. When she finally regains consciousness, she asks him why he did not kill her with his sword. Iki lowers his head sadly, before telling her that, because of the illness she suffers from, she will never be able to fight again. Ayase completely breaks down and begins crying. Iki gently tells her that she lost, but she lost with honor. Finally, the referee declares Iki the winner by knockout. After the battle ends, Ayase remembers her father training her in swordsmanship when she was young. Back in the present, Stella watches the news about Kurashiki, the powerful swordsman who has been destroying martial arts schools across the city. Iki explains that Kurashiki is one of last year's 7-star knights and is known as the Killer Swordsman. Ayase reveals that he defeated everyone at her school without even drawing his soul weapon, including her father Kaito, one of the strongest samurai in the country. She recalls the battle from 5 years ago. Kaito fought bravely and refused to give up, but after suddenly coughing up blood, Kurashiki seized the opportunity, defeated him, and later defeated Ayase as well. Before leaving, Kurashiki claimed ownership of their school. After finishing her story, Ayase takes Iki and Stella to the school, which is now occupied by Kurashiki's men. Iki defeats the guards and challenges Kurashiki to a duel. If he wins, the school must be returned to Ayase. Kurashiki laughs but accepts the challenge. Iki proves he is no longer weak, then both summon their soul weapons and begin fighting. Kurashiki constantly changes his weapon between a sword and chains, making his attacks extremely difficult to predict. Even after Iki begins analyzing his fighting style, Kurashiki continues overwhelming him and lands several powerful blows. While watching the battle, Ayase blames herself for everything that happened to her family. Stella comforts her, believing Iki will win. As the fight continues, both warriors exhaust most of their magic power. Suddenly, Iki unleashes a tremendous aura and charges forward. Kurashiki attacks with countless chains, but Iki dodges every one of them before both fighters unleash their strongest techniques. The clash ends with a devastating wound across Kurashiki's chest, and Iki is declared the winner. Before leaving, Kurashiki gives the school back to Ayase and tells Iki that they will settle everything again during the 7-star festival. After the battle, Iki nearly collapses from exhaustion, but Stella catches him. Ayase apologizes and says she is unworthy of inheriting Kaito's school. However, Iki tells her she only lost because she never forgot her father's techniques and that no one is more qualified than his own daughter to inherit the school. Encouraged by his words, Ayase promises to become stronger and protect the school before placing the school's signboard back in its rightful place. Later, Iki and Stella receive a message from Ayase saying that her father, Kaito, has finally regained consciousness. After that, the tournament matches continue. While Iki keeps winning one battle after another, he eventually reaches 12 consecutive victories without a single defeat. Afterward, Iki and Stella board a bus for a trip outside the academy. Stella asks the headmaster for a 1-week vacation, and the headmaster agrees. However, she also invites them to join the school's training camp. It seems this vacation is not what Stella expected. Even so, Iki and Stella decide to go anyway, especially because the place looks incredibly beautiful. Shizuku also accompanies them on the trip. After some time, Iki and Stella arrive at the location and begin walking, but the weather is extremely cold for Stella. Iki notices that she is feeling cold, so he gives her a handkerchief before they head toward the lodging area. However, while they are walking, they are surprised to find the members of the student council standing in front of them. Right after that, everyone starts playing volleyball, and the atmosphere quickly turns into a fun moment. However, the game gradually becomes more intense, and everyone begins using their powers while playing. Elsewhere, Iki sits with the rest of the team members. After that, everyone returns to the place where they are staying, only to discover that it is not a hotel as they expected. It is actually a school training camp. At the same time, Stella begins cleaning the place. The student council president tells them that the tournament representatives will come here for training after 1 week, so the place must be clean and ready. Everyone joins the cleaning work because the place is far too large for one person to clean alone. Stella complains, saying that she came here on a trip, not to clean a training camp. Meanwhile, one of the student council members moves everywhere, continuing to clean without stopping. Even the student council president works alongside them. As for Iki, he cleans the camp windows. Stella sighs and says that she thought she would finally get some rest from the pressure of the matches, but instead, she ended up cleaning. At the same time, Shizuku arrives, but she does not head to the training camp. Instead, she returns to her family home. Elsewhere, Iki and Stella decide to visit the waterfall and walk around for a while. Iki asks the student council president if they have finished cleaning. She thanks him and tells him that they finished the work thanks to everyone's help. After that, Ichi invites Stella to go to the waterfall. While walking through the forest, he notices that Stella looks tired. He asks if she is all right. She replies that she feels a little exhausted. Ichi teases her by saying that the reason must be the 2 bowls of rice she ate before they came, because no one eats as much as she does. Stella replies that she spent the entire day cleaning and wonders whether they came here for a trip or to exhaust themselves. Then she tells him to keep moving instead of wasting time talking. Elsewhere, Shizuku arrives at her family home. While she is there, she opens a photo album. Inside, she finds pictures of Ichi. It becomes clear that Ichi belongs to the same family, and that the two of them grew up together since childhood. That is why they knew each other from the very beginning. On the other side, night falls over Ichi and Stella inside the forest. Stella's condition becomes worse, to the point that she can barely catch her breath. Suddenly, rain begins to fall. Ichi helps her walk, and they continue moving until they find a small cabin. They enter it to shelter from the rain. However, an unknown person is watching them from the top of a tree. Somewhere else, a woman calls out to Shizuku and tells her that her father wants to see her. Shizuku goes to his room. Her father tells her that he has not seen her for a long time. She asks him to tell her directly why he called her. However, he asks her to sit down so they can talk for a while. She refuses and says that there is nothing worth talking about. He then asks about her life away from the family and whether she has become stronger or is still as weak as she used to be. Shizuku replies with a sarcastic question, asking if he is pretending not to know the results of the academy matches. He tells her that he follows all her news, but he wanted to hear it from her directly. Then he tells her that winning all her matches raises the family's status. Shizuku replies that Ichi also won all of his matches, and she asks why he does not care about him the same way he cares about her. He tells her that things are not as she thinks. However, she accuses him of lying and leaves the room, and the question remains, if Ichi has become strong and changed so much, why does his family still refuse to acknowledge him? Meanwhile, Ichi and Stella are inside the cabin. Suddenly, Ichi hears a loud crash outside. He steps out to see what is happening. However, he is shocked when a strange creature appears. It is a massive stone golem that attacks the cabin and completely destroys it while Stella is still sleeping inside. At the very last moment, Ichi manages to save her and carry her out of the cabin. He places her somewhere safe and tells her to wait until he finishes this. Then he summons his sword and charges toward the golem. With a single strike, he pierces through its body, causing it to shatter into pieces of stone. But suddenly, those stones gather again, and the monster returns to its original form. Every time Ichi destroys one of them, it splits into 2, until their numbers increase dramatically. Then, all the monsters head toward Stella and nearly finish her off. However, at the last second, one of the student council members drops down from above and saves her. And she is not alone. The entire student council team has arrived. One of them begins defeating the monsters with his sword. But the problem is that the monsters keep coming back to life. At that moment, they realize that someone is controlling these monsters with his own power. The question is, who is that person? At that moment, one of the student council members appears. A girl with overwhelming power. She wipes out all the monsters in seconds. However, they gather again and form one giant monster. Even so, she destroys it in the blink of an eye. Then she manages to stop the person controlling them using her magical threads. After that, the story briefly returns to the past. Shizuku was still a little girl living with her family. From a very young age, she possessed tremendous power. However, her family cared about nothing except strength. Because of that, Shizuku gradually came to hate them and no longer wanted to live with them. During that time, Ichi was the only person who eased the pain caused by her family. As for Ichi himself, he was treated terribly because of his weak magic power. Every member of the family mocked him, considered him a disgrace, and wished they could get rid of him. From that day on, Shizuku decided that she would stay by Ichi's side wherever he went and would never leave him. The story then returns to the present. Ichi and Stella are sitting with Nagi while news spreads about the giant monsters that attacked them the previous day. Ichi tells them that he will not stay silent. He intends to find the person who controlled those monsters and tried to kill them. Everyone then remembers the overwhelming strength of the student council president Tuka. Stella tells everyone that Shizuku will face Tuka in tomorrow's match. It is obvious that the battle will be extremely difficult. However, Nagi tells them not to worry about Shizuku. She uses water magic while Tuka fights with lightning magic. He believes that water has the advantage over lightning and can stop its attacks, so he is confident that Shizuku will win. Later, Shizuku meets with Nagi. He notices that she is worried about the upcoming battle. He tells tells her not to be afraid and to imagine how Iki would enter this match. He would face it with complete confidence and determination. Shizuku tells him that Iki was looked down on by his family for many years. Since then, she has understood the painful truth hidden behind his smile. But now he has become strong and he no longer needs his family or anyone else. That is why she will become stronger as well, and she will defeat Tuka in this battle. Finally, the long-awaited match between Shizuku and the student council president Tuka begins. Both of them release their magic power. Shizuku summons her water sword, while Tuka draws her purple lightning sword. The duel begins. Strangely, neither of them makes the first move. Each one waits for the other to reveal her fighting style before the real battle begins. The commentator explains that both of them are strong candidates to become one of the 7-star knights, so even the smallest mistake could lead to defeat. Suddenly, Shizuku launches the first attack. She releases water and immediately freezes it, covering the entire arena with ice. However, Tuka easily dodges the attack. She immediately counters with a powerful lightning strike. Shizuku blocks it with her water magic. Right afterward, Shizuku unleashes several consecutive attacks, but Tuka's strength is overwhelming, and she blocks every single one of them. As the battle continues, the advantage slowly shifts toward the student council president. Suddenly, Shizuku freezes the ground beneath Tuka before dropping a massive ice attack on her. Anyone who thinks the battle is over is completely mistaken. Tuka shatters all the ice and emerges from it even stronger than before. Even so, Tuka is shocked because she cannot understand how Shizuku predicted her movement and froze the ground beneath her. Suddenly, Tuka's speed increases dramatically. In the blink of an eye, she reaches Shizuku and knocks her to the ground with a single strike. The two of them then begin exchanging attacks at incredible speed. Up to that point, Shizuku is still able to keep up with the fight, but suddenly, Tuka unleashes a direct lightning attack that appears to finish her. However, the one she struck is only a water clone. The real Shizuku is standing behind her. Even so, Shizuku has already been wounded in her arm. Tuka immediately attacks again with lightning-fast speed, relentlessly striking Shizuku without giving her a chance to recover. Eventually, Shizuku can no longer endure it. She is left doing nothing except defending herself. She can no longer keep up with Tuka's attacks, which gradually tear her body apart. At that moment, Iki says that Shizuku is actually able to see Tuka's technique. The problem is that she is afraid and cannot focus, so all she can do is defend herself. Just then, the headmaster arrives and confirms that Iki is correct. She then reveals an important fact. Tuka's master is considered one of the greatest and strongest instructors in Japan. The moment Iki hears his name, he is completely shocked. Meanwhile, Shizuku speaks to herself. She tells herself that everyone is watching her now. That means she has to surpass her limits and unleash all of her power. She then activates a special technique that completely heals all of her injuries. Tuka immediately senses that something has changed and prepares herself. Suddenly, Shizuku launches another attack, but Tuka disappears and reappears right in front of her in an instant. Shizuku dodges the strike and immediately launches several consecutive attacks. However, Tuka avoids every single one without being affected. The two of them unleash attacks at the exact same moment, completely destroying the arena within seconds. Immediately afterward, Tuka rushes forward with a lightning-fast attack and delivers a sword strike that nearly ends the battle. But Shizuku creates multiple water clones. Tuka suddenly finds herself surrounded from every direction. Even so, she charges forward and destroys most of the clones with her sword. Only 2 clones remain as they attack her together. She quickly eliminates those as well. At that very moment, the real Shizuku takes advantage of the opening. She prepares her water sword and attacks from behind, attempting to catch Tuka off guard. She is only moments away from cutting off Tuka's head, but at the last second, Tuka unleashes her strongest technique, a massive lightning strike that destroys the entire battlefield in an instant. Shizuku can no longer continue and collapses to the ground. With that, the student council president, Tuka, is declared the winner. After the match ends, Shizuku opens her eyes and finds herself in the hospital. Everyone is standing around her. She asks them if she lost. Then she asks them to leave her alone for a while. Stella looks at Iki and asks whether Shizuku will be alright. Iki reassures her and tells her not to worry. Shizuku has become much stronger than she was before. Right after that, the tournament continues. Stella wins her next match with a single attack. After the battle, she goes out for a walk with Iki. She tells him that she feels much stronger than before. Iki agrees with her. She then reminds him of what he once said. that they would both win all of their matches and meet in the finals. Iki says that he still remembers those words, and that before that can happen, they must first defeat every other competitor. As time passes, all the other contestants are eliminated from the tournament. Only Iki, Stella, and Tuka remain. Now, only the strongest fighters are left. Meanwhile, the headmaster calls Iki to her office. She asks him if he knows an old man named Akaza, who works for the World Magic Knight Union. Iki tells her that he knows him well. He used to see him often while living with his family. He also explains that the old man once worked for the Kurogane family. The headmaster tells him that Akaza has recently been investigating matters related to the academy. She adds that she knows Iki's father, but she cannot understand why Akaza is doing something like this. Iki replies that Akaza is not acting under his father's orders. He is acting on his own because he has hated Iki for a very long time. It seems the situation is far more complicated than anyone expected. Afterward, Iki thanks the headmaster for the information. Stella then arrives and tells him that the student council wants to meet with them, asking him to come with her. They enter the room, and the student council president Tuka tells them that she would like to get to know them better. After that, everyone heads out together. Tuka walks over to a group of orphaned children and begins playing with them. During that time, one of the student council members explains that Tuka grew up in an orphanage just like this one. The children are delighted to see everyone, and they soon gather around Stella as well. Everyone spends the day playing and laughing together. Meanwhile, Iki and Tuka prepare food for the children. Afterward, Iki thanks Tuka for saving them from the stone golems. Tuka begins explaining to him how magic power flows through the human body, along with several other related concepts. While they are talking, one of the children calls out to Iki. At that moment, Iki realizes just how deeply Tuka understands magic power, and he is amazed by the extent of her knowledge. Once the meal is ready, everyone eats lunch together. The day eventually comes to an end, and Iki leaves with Stella. On the way back, Iki begins wondering what he will do if he is forced to face Tuka. As soon as they arrive in the city, they find their friends running toward them. At the same time, the news begins spreading a photo of Iki and Stella together, along with a rumor claiming that they are going to get married. The story immediately causes a huge commotion. Stella becomes furious when she sees that the news is still calling Iki the weakest student in the academy. Suddenly, a car stops in front of them. Akaza steps out. He asks Iki to come with him because he wants to question him about the giants that attacked him earlier. He then reassures him, saying that this is an official summons from the ethics committee. Stella becomes worried, but Iki tells her not to worry and says that he will go with him. He then leaves alongside Akaza. However, it quickly becomes clear that this is not just a summons. It is an official investigation and trial. Iki finds himself handcuffed as Akaza begins questioning him. His first question is when Iki first met Stella. Iki answers that they met at the beginning of the tournament. Meanwhile, several people are watching the interrogation through monitors and taking part in questioning him. This raises an important question. Is this investigation really about Stella, or is there another objective behind it? At the same time, the headmaster tells one of the girls that Akaza is after only one thing. He wants Iki to make a single confession so he can ban him internationally and prevent him from ever becoming an officially recognized magic knight. After the interrogation ends, they remove Iki's restraints and inform him that he must return at 6 o'clock the next morning for another investigation. However, they do not release him. Instead, they lock him inside a room until the next interrogation begins. Meanwhile, Stella earns another victory, and it seems that her match against Tuka is getting closer. The story then returns to Iki, who has now spent 4 days in detention. Akaza tells him that he will fight his selection matches inside the detention facility because they do not want to waste any time. Iki manages to win that match as well. However, both the investigation and his detention continue. Elsewhere, Stella sits with Shizuku and Nagi. All three of them look deeply worried because of Iki. None of them knows what they can do against the ethics committee. Stella is almost ready to lose hope, but Shizuku restores her confidence once again. On the 8th day of the investigation, Iki is still being forced to fight all of his tournament matches inside the detention facility. One of the teachers is present there. Without anyone noticing, she secretly slips something into his clothes. When Iki later checks it, he finds a note with a lock of Stella's hair inside. He immediately understands the message. Stella is safe, and her tournament matches are going well. The realization finally puts his mind at ease. Afterward, Iki requests a meeting with the head of the Kurogane family. Suddenly, a message arrives from his family saying that they want to see him. Akaza becomes furious when he hears about it, and it turns out that the headmaster arranged the meeting herself. The head of the Kurogane family soon arrives and speaks privately with Iki. He tells Iki that he has heard about his long streak of victories and that he is no longer the same person he used to be. Iki replies that he is still an F-rank knight, but his strength has grown tremendously. He then asks, "If I win the 7-Star Festival, will you finally acknowledge me?" The head of the family replies that he acknowledged him from the very beginning. He explains that he only wanted to make Iki stronger. Then he asks how someone without natural talent could ever grow stronger without enduring such harsh circumstances. He insists that everything Iki went through was meant to help him become stronger. Iki is completely stunned by those words. Unable to hold back his emotions, tears begin running down his face. After that, Iki continues fighting his matches inside the detention facility, defeating every opponent without mercy. Even so, the investigation continues. 17 full days pass while he remains in custody. Finally, Akaza tells him that his next opponent will be Tuka and that she will be his final opponent in the selection match. He then says, "If you win, consider the investigation over and you will walk out of here. But if you lose, then forget about ever becoming a magic knight." Iki remains in detention, spending his time thinking about what the head of the Kurogane family told him. He quietly says to himself, "What am I supposed to do with my weak swordsmanship?" Meanwhile, Shizuku is talking with the student council president Tuka. She tells Tuka that she knows her match against Iki is scheduled for tomorrow and that everything happening right now is simply part of the ethics committee's plan. She adds that there is nothing she can do. She has also heard that Iki's physical condition has become extremely poor, and she wonders how he will even be able to fight. Even so, Tuka says that no matter what happens, Iki will still fight to win. She also promises that she will not hold back against him and will fight with all of her strength. That is why she asks Shizuku for one favor. She asks her not to try convincing Iki to withdraw from the match. Finally, the last day of the Academy's selection tournament arrives. 6 battles are scheduled to take place across different arenas that day, and in the end, only 6 competitors will qualify. The match everyone is waiting for is Iki versus Tuka, the strongest battle of the entire selection tournament. The event has become so important that helicopters are flying overhead to broadcast it. However, one question remains. Will Iki and Tuka fight inside the detention facility or in the official arena? The headmaster explains that Iki has been cornered. Winning is now his only chance to prove his innocence. Eventually, it is decided that the battle will take place in the official arena. Everyone gathers there, waiting for the match to begin. Akaza is among the spectators, eagerly waiting to watch Iki lose. After days of endless interrogations, Iki's body has been pushed to its absolute limit, leaving him in terrible condition. The time for the match finally arrives, but Iki is nowhere to be seen. It soon becomes clear that his absence is no coincidence. It is part of Akaza's plan, because the ethics committee never wanted him to fight in the first place. If he fails to appear within 15 minutes, he will automatically lose by forfeit. The headmaster immediately realizes that Akaza is behind all of this. However, Akaza calmly tells her that when he went to bring Iki insisted on coming by himself. He even mockingly tells her not to worry because Iki will not collapse on the way here. Meanwhile, Iki is running with every last bit of strength he has left. He is on the verge of collapsing. While running, he remembers his great-grandfather. Then voices begin echoing inside his mind, calling him a failure and a weakling. They tell him that even his weak sword will never help him, and that he has no chance of defeating Tuka because she will crush him with ease. But Iki refuses to give up. Instead, he keeps moving forward with all of his determination and passion. At last, he reaches the arena. However, the moment he arrives, he loses consciousness. When he opens his eyes again, he finds Shizuku standing in front of him. She begs him not to enter the arena or fight in his current condition. Then she admits that she knows she cannot stop him. At that moment, the audience and all of Iki's friends begin cheering for him. They encourage him to keep fighting because they truly believe he can win. Then Stella appears while holding a medal. She tells Iki that she has officially become one of the representatives for the 7-Star Sword Art Festival. Iki is genuinely happy because Stella has kept the promise she made to him. A moment later, Tuka walks into the arena. From the opposite side, Iki steps forward as well. Tuka apologizes to him and tells him that she knows he is not in any condition to fight. However, she also says that she will neither hold back nor intentionally lose. She will fight with everything she has. She then releases her magic power and summons her lightning sword. Iki tells her that this is exactly what he wanted. He asks her to show him her full strength. Then he summons his own sword. Suddenly, Ichi unleashes the strongest technique he has right from the very beginning of the battle. Everyone is convinced that he has gone mad. He uses his ultimate move immediately, as though he intends to end the fight in a single attack. But Tuka also releases all of her power and declares that she will win with one decisive strike. Ichi charges toward her, saying that he does not care that she is merely another opponent. All he wants is victory. Tuka replies that she no longer cares about remaining number one. She only wants to settle this battle. At that point, the fight is no longer just another match. It has become a battle of pride. Ichi begins analyzing every aspect of Tuka's power. Blood starts flowing from his eyes while every part of his body screams in pain under the overwhelming strain. Then he rushes forward. With a single strike, he defeats Tuka. The battle ends instantly with one decisive blow. The referee declares Ichi the winner. Akaza stands there in complete shock, unable to believe what he has just witnessed. It has now become obvious that if Ichi had truly wanted to kill his opponent, he would have been capable of doing so. With this victory, neither Akaza nor the ethics committee has any authority over him anymore. He fulfilled their condition and won. However, Ichi can no longer remain standing. He is about to collapse. Suddenly, Akaza storms into the arena with his weapon drawn. It is obvious that he cannot accept Ichi's victory and wants to get rid of him by any means necessary. He charges straight toward him, but Stella arrives at the perfect moment. She swings her sword and sends Akaza flying backward. As for Ichi, he no longer has the strength to support himself and begins to fall. Before he can hit the ground, Stella catches him in her arms. After that, Ichi asks Stella to marry him. Overjoyed, Stella happily accepts his proposal. And with that, the first part of Ichi's story comes to an end. However, his journey is far from over. Even greater battles, far more dangerous enemies, and even bigger challenges are still waiting for him. Will he finally achieve his dream and win the 7-Star Festival? We'll find out in the next part.